Yeah,
So
just start. I'm
shut
gonna
up.
be here.
Okay.
Fucking mess all the time.
I hit the button. Alright. We are officially on the internet.
For the first time.
Yay, only an hour late.
Well,
And like a month and a half, but whatever.
well,
just
such
no, we'll
things,
just move past that.
Such things tend to happen from time to time. As, you know, real life unfortunately occasionally gets in the way of D&D, as annoying as that can be. It cannot be helped. We'll go around, introduce ourselves real quick, and then I'll do a recap so that the folks watching who haven't watched anything from us in about 2 months will be caught back up to where we are.
Talk about a long rest.
Yeah, that was a very long rest.
Pretty long.
I am Joey. I am the DM. We'll go...
I'm Joseph.
Yep.
And I'm going to be playing Lucas.
I'm Dusty. I'm going to be playing Atrix.
I'm going to be playing Rooklyn.
I'm Delaney. I forget what we named her temporarily because we didn't care enough to create a name yet.
Correction.
But that's who I am.
You didn't care enough to create a name.
No, I didn't care. Yeah, no, I didn't care enough to create a name.
You are not here yet. So, you have time to come up with a name.
One. Alright.
Anyway.
Do this shit.
The last session was y'all's flight from Hope Falls to the edge of the Black City. For the most part, it was relatively uneventful. Several people gazed into their potential futures. I know Merith and Hadrian both did, as well as Atrix. I believe Lucas still has his card.
I fully intend to eat that thing sometime.
If I remember correctly, and has not yet gazed into it.
I believe I did take a taste.
You took a taste.
Well, Rooklyn didn't have a card. Rooklyn did enter a very mysterious tavern in a tree. And
yes.
Yes, the tree tavern. And meet a long-eared rabbit folk individual who I don't think really ever introduced himself.
Nope.
No.
Melvin. Melvin.
Yeah.
He's mine.
No, he never gave me a name.
Or if he did, just gave you a name, and...
He's my child Huskies. He is.
It is actually based on a real rabbit. But,
yeah. A child.
But, you drank a amber beverage of unknown origin or name.
Top notch.
And it was pretty good. But yeah, apart from that, both evenings passed relatively uneventfully. And you made it to the edge of the Black City. And took your rest just before entering the city. Upon sunrise, Merith and Hadrian had already charged off into the city before anyone could say or stop them. So, for y'all's individual, you can read into that what you will. I believe he rolled his dice and everything at the end of the last session before we cut the stream. I believe. If not, he rolled his stealth checks and everything, and He ducked out into the city ahead of y'all. Which leaves the three of you and Carmen, who is still with you.
Nah.
I forgot about her.
Yes. And that is currently where you are at. It is the morning. If I want to get the actual date, I'll have to look up what it is on at a later time here.
Approximately how far from the city are we? City
Well,
entrance?
right.
You
at the
are
Vail.
you are to the Vail. You had not yet walked through it. The only two who have gone
Okay.
through it are Hadrian and Marith.
Was the Vail like
The Vail is kind of a
right
rippling
there with the city
curtain.
itself, or was it spaced?
It seems to have a little bit of space between it and the city. From what you can
Okay.
tell, at least at this distance, what you can now tell.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to make a move on if anyone else wants to
Oh.
go.
Yep.
So, do you have any particular order you wanted to enter the city, or are you just plunging ahead?
Do we all have dark vision? Do we all have any specific resistances?
The only one who doesn't have dark vision would be Atrix.
Hello.
Oddly enough, your ranger and guide does not have dark vision. The rest of you
Hello.
all do.
Oh, that's alright.
So,
Shit happens.
yep.
I have a torch and some holy water, so
I hope you put holy water in quotations because that's the holy water that you made.
holy water.
And at no point was it blessed by anybody.
Correct.
So,
Anybody.
mechanically, it's water. And grody water at that. Hey, all you did was put a bunch of, like, random crap in there and some of the ashes from your card.
Yep. Holy water.
Called it holy water. I think you might have said what you thought was some kind of, like, blessing over it.
I'm pretty sure I did. I said like Allahumma ta'ala or some
Yeah.
shit like that.
I don't think any actual gods were ever mentioned. I don't think...
Just straight up Avada Kedavra. Boom.
Yeah,
Holy water.
basically, you did what you know of magic, which is abracadabra, boogity boogity boogity. It's now magic.
Yep.
For those of you watching at home who are curious, it's not how magic works. It's kind of how magic works, but it's not how magic works.
Whatever.
But yeah. Anyway, what I was saying was there any order you guys were going into the Black City, or were you just entering as it is?
Because Lucas doesn't remember his time in the Black City, and is a very cautious young lad, for the most part, he will take the name Black City at face value, to assume that it is at least dark, or has a dark aura, preventing people without dark vision or artificial light, natural light, to see.
Oh.
So he will suggest that those with dark vision go first, implying his reasoning there.
I'll go first.
No.
Joey, send me the invite link, please.
Did you not get it?
There's
No.
a flying face.
Alright, I will try and send it to you again.
Thank you. I've not gotten it. Which...
Please stand by.
What if I sit by?
Then I have to say that you're a dork.
Oh well.
Alright.
Noise.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
All right. So as you each walk through the Vail, it's a unique experience, regardless of which order you go in. The Vail is very cold to the touch, and as you approach, it seems to almost reach out and wrap around you like a shadow.
That's kind of dope.
And it does this for Atrix. It does it for Lucas. It does it for Carmen. But when it gets to Rooklyn, it's slightly different. The shadows still reach out for him like it did everyone else. But you see a brief moment where a thin shimmer appears around him of light. And the shadows can't quite grab purchase on him like they did on everyone else. It's like they're just can't quite touch him.
Jesus.
But he still manages to walk past the Vail just like the rest of you. And
Okay.
you are greeted with a relatively large city. But there are a few things you couldn't tell from outside. As Lucas said, it is a little bit dark in here, but it's more the dark of twilight. Not pitch black. It's got this eerie feel about it in the air, where, you know, they to put it in perspective for the players here, that atmosphere that they like to use for a lot of horror movies, where the clouds are all just kind of gray, there's no real sunlight, but it's not dark during the day.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like for the sky.
Okay.
Hang on. I gotta grab the map of the city because I know where you entered from, but I have to be able to describe what you can see. Which I did send that map to y'all in Discord. That's what those images were that I sent earlier. So from where you entered, in the sky, it would be on your almost immediate right. There is the largest fleet you have ever seen of airships. And you couldn't see these when you looked at it through the telescope back in Hope Falls. These ships didn't appear to be there. Now that you are physically in the city, there is a whole fleet of these ships up there. I will have anyone who wants to know more about airships in general in the world at large roll a history check for me here. If you don't really care, I will just keep moving and you can learn about it as we go. It's just if you think your character might have already known this information.
Got a 23. Natural 20.
Rooklyn is apparently a fan of airships.
It should go fly.
He made model airships.
It go boom.
Made model airships and managed to just barely get them to levitate for little bits with spells. But Rooklyn, with that ridiculous roll, you would know that a fleet like this has not been seen. All this whole fleet like this together has not been seen in probably around 2,000 years. Because for one group to have this many airships functional is virtually unheard of in modern times. as some secret to building them was lost around the time the city fell. Engineers have been able to keep the current ones running so long as they don't suffer any catastrophic damage. But if they suffer any catastrophic damage to the arcane engines or enough damage to the hull or anything like that, they fall out of the sky and never fly again. The other thing with that ridiculous roll that you would know is this is a full battle group. It's not just any fleet of airships. This was a war fleet. And in this war fleet is now the fourth known dreadnought active in the world. The rest have all been taken out of commission. And all of these are tethered around what can only be described as a skyport. This very large tower that functions as a dock in the skies for all these ships. It is the tallest thing around, with the exception of what, again, can only be described as a chunk of floating city, which is almost directly in front of you. From this distance, you can't see if there's any kind of tethers holding it in place, or if it is just being held aloft and held in place by some sort of arcane magic. But there is a huge chunk of city floating in the skies that from this distance you cannot see tethered, but you can see the chunk of ground still hanging off the bottom of it, as if this part of the city was ripped from the ground into the skies and is now just there. From when you guys looked through the telescope back in Hope Falls, you would have seen these towers, but the angle would not have allowed you to see that this part was floating. They just appeared to be ridiculously tall towers. And the last thing that I need y'all to do is I need Atrix and Lucas to make wisdom saving throws because you entered the Black City. Yes. Atrix, roll better than last time.
So that's a dirty
I got-
20.
I got a 7.
Of course you did. All right.
My brain hurt again.
Yep. Let me grab my dice real quick. You are not having good luck with these.
It's fine. I'm just stupid. It's
And
probably that holy water that I have.
it's the holy
Giving me
water.
Bad luck. It's giving me bad luck. That's what it is.
So
well, blasphemy will do that.
both of
The
you
ash and
feel
holy water.
the same sharp pain that you did before as memories flood back into your minds. Atrix,
Aneurysm
unfortunately,
every time.
you suffer 4 points of psychic damage as you get a really bad headache from this. Apparently, you and Memory are not good friends.
Nope.
But you see yourselves, Carmen, Sabria. No, not Sabria. Shadow Branch. And Aerith and Hadrian. You are all running through these city streets. The skies are darker than they are now. You can hear in the distance, chasing you, the howls of something approaching. You can also hear screams off in the distance from around the area the howls are coming from. And then you are back in the present, where you are.
Okay. Well,
You are now just inside the limits of the Black City. If you, while you're taking this in, if you look behind you, the ground is no longer the same. It is the same overcast, despite the weather that was before. And you remember as you were approaching, there was a point where the trees started to fade. And there was a lot of abandoned farmhouses, overgrown with weeds. And then there was an area that just right near the edge that became almost barren. That's all gone. It looks like it probably should have when this city was alive. You can see all the farmhouses are still in good shape. The farms there seem to have crops. Well, the beginnings of crops. It's early spring. They've been plowed. But they look like they should have over 2,000 years ago when this city was a functional city.
Pizza.
Is there anything you all want to do here, having just discovered the weirdness that is the Black City?
I want to go home.
Want to go home? I'm scared,
Listen, I
guys.
guess I'm still suffering from a headache,
You're
so I'm
suffering from
probably
a
not
pretty
gonna
good
do
migraine.
much.
Yep.
Probably take a quick glance to make sure there's no like enemies coming straight for us or people running towards us or anything. Just like a quick glance ahead.
Quick glance ahead. All right. Roll your perception for me, would you?
The 5.
Okay.
You barely perceive yourself attempting to perceive things.
It's true.
Blurry.
Even though you are actively looking, oddly enough, Ripplin notices them before you do.
Weird.
You must have been distracted by something shiny, or
Me
the
too.
the ridiculous pain shooting through your temple.
Most likely.
But there are two individuals approaching you. They're not running. They're not acting hostile. They're just approaching. And as they get closer, you hear one of them look over to the other one and go, "Hey, I think that's them. Old man was right. You owe me 5 silver." And the larger of the two, you hear him grumble a little bit. Nothing discernible, but you just see him drop coins into the other one's hand as they continue to approach.
Huh. Nothing shady about that.
Hmm?
My hand immediately goes to my short sword.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm gonna go ahead and draw one of my short swords. Just
Totally thought I had a rapier. It's a short sword.
But I'm gonna take a less aggressive approach and just be like, "Hey guys, nice town you got here. What new?"
listen, I'm in pain. I didn't see them. I'm just gonna immediately draw for my sword.
Weapon still sheathed, but we
Alright,
got the hand
alright.
on her.
So one of you has drawn a weapon, one has issued a greeting, and one is
Skeptical.
kind of right in between.
I apologize for these other two. They're a little jumpy. Little jumpy.
Carmen
small child.
actually.
This one quite literally, he's little and jumpy.
Carmen actually walks up beside you, Atrix, and just goes, "Relax. They're friends."
All right, I'll put my sword away, but I'm keeping my eyes on them.
But no, as they approach, they kind of look you over, and at this point, you can see one of them is about 7 foot tall. He was the larger of the two you saw approaching. He has the same kind of all black clothes that Carmen wears. They're not quite as refined as hers. A little bit more of a commoner's clothes rather than a noble duelist. But it is worth noting that he has the same clasp around his cloak that she does. The same unnaturally dark black cloak. His seems to be in a little bit better shape than Carmen's, though. A little bit less wear on it, and you notice that it has a hood that he has thrown back as well. The other one is about the same height as Lucas. He is wearing plate. His helmet is under his arm, and he is relatively relaxed despite the surroundings here, or at least appears to be. And he is just grinning ear to ear to see you, while the other is definitely got a grimace on his face, probably due to the fact that he just lost 5 silver on the fact that you all showed up.
I would be too.
Yeah.
So, have we met?
He just kind of... The bigger of the two goes, "Yeah. The last time you were here. When you stopped."
That's a little foggy for some of us.
I've never been here before.
My head
Goes.
still hurts from the first time I tried remembering this place.
Stop being short.
He kind of looks at the two of you and goes, "The old men said that might be the case."
Old man. Who dat?
He's one of the one of those seers. I've never put much stock in it. Predict
You
the
got a name?
future, see into the past, and weaver of fates, and whole lot of nonsense.
Fair enough.
But since you appear to have forgotten, my name is Moloch. And
Howdy do.
yeah. Molok, for those of you who are writing that down. A Moloch.
Was he the one on the plate?
No, this is the taller of the two.
Taller.
The smaller of the two introduces himself as crap. Where'd his name go? introduces himself as Augustus.
Okey-doke.
After that, they look to Brooklyn. And old man said to expect a new one. Pleasure to meet you as well. And what might
Nice
your
to
name
meet
be?
you too. I'm a Rooklyn. I'm just a little investigator guy, just trying to find good old Shadow Branch. Don't know if you've heard of him.
You hear again the taller of the two just let out a sigh. Go, yeah. Shadow Branch. Of course you're here for him. And he just kind of rubs his eyes for a moment. Before going,
Bad, obnoxious, huh?
he goes, let's just say, for an academic, he has an unhealthy obsession with touching things he probably shouldn't.
So he's just an idiot. Got it.
He goes, basically, yes. He's a ridiculously intelligent man that has zero self-preservation.
You sound like me.
Would you guys happen to know his whereabouts?
Unless he has wandered off again, he should be back in Raven's Hollow.
Okey doke. Because, I know exactly where that's at.
Relax. That's why we're here. Is the old man said that you might have memory issues and that it would probably be of our best interest as well as yours if we met you up here. If
So
Carmen
y'all
was
are
able to
gonna
convince you to come back.
Can I do an insight check and see if they're like legit
Yeah.
on the real
Couldn't
up and up?
interest them in a drink of water, maybe?
You roll your insight, Sean. Atrix, Dusty, you roll persuasion if you're gonna try and get him to drink that shit.
A persuasion?
Yeah.
You know what?
I got
Deal.
Can I aid him in the persuasion?
That is a 19.
You know what?
I got 24.
Alright. You do successfully convince the taller of the two to take a swig. He immediately... What in the nine hells is this?
I'm just checking something.
To see if I have taste buds?
Essentially, yes. And you do, so good.
And you do, so good.
But Brooklyn with a 24. That's what you said you got, right? 24?
Yep.
Okay. With a 24, from what you can make out, they seem to be genuine. You can tell that the older one is the taller of the two is somewhat annoyed to have to be here at the moment, and that the shorter one in the plate is enjoying every second of the older one or the taller one being annoyed. And apart from that, they genuinely seem to... The old man, as they keep putting it, genuinely seems to have sent them here, from what you can tell.
Okay.
Good lord.
Yep.
Listen, I'm just doing it for everybody's safety, okay?
Hey, I can't blame you on that one. You never know.
But yeah. So that's how that worked out. The
Well,
Yeah,
the
50%.
second one, the shorter of the two in the plate, is laughing hysterically at the fact that you just got the taller one, Moloch, to take a swig of whatever that was. He thinks it was absolutely hilarious.
What?
Ashen water.
Amongst other herbs and spices, yes.
My God,
So-
you're so
That's irrelevant.
So they also greet Carmen before they look at you turning around and going, we have a slight detour we're supposed to make on the way home, but then if you follow us, we're heading to the Raven's Hollow.
where's the detour gonna lead us?
We're going down a dark alley.
It's the smaller one, Augustus, that turns and responds to that. Goes, old man said there was somebody else who we were supposed to meet, but they weren't going to be coming with you lot, so we were supposed to swing by the Ruby Gardens before we head back. Apparently they're there or going to be there shortly. He's not always the most straight talker when it comes to his prophecy prediction things. Enough to get us time, place, meet, and I quote, the fiery one.
Well, that
And just
sounds
shrugs.
dangerous.
He goes, yes, well, you three were described as the heavens
The cute
touched.
one.
He goes, the detective touched by heaven, the reformed thief touched by the hells, and the wild man. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
descriptions are not necessarily always super helpful from him.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was the wild man, right?
He kind of shrugs and goes, I don't know. I
You
really
didn't try to
don't.
tackle an old man.
I assume that you were touched by the hells due to, the horns,
I would
but
have tried to tackle him if I got closer. But,
I'm not entirely sure. Because
For
For all I know-
by the heavens, right?
he points over at Atrix and goes, for all I know, the little one here is secretly a demon. I don't know.
It's no secret. It is no secret.
it's
You don't
common
know what I
knowledge,
got.
actually. Not very smart.
But
But
he points at him, says that, points at you and goes, and you could be a cleric. I really don't know. The way he describes it is not terribly helpful. But yes, we're going to swing by the Ruby Gardens, wait for a few minutes, and see if the fiery one shows up.
noise.
Bad.
And so,
well, the Ruby Gardens do sound like a nice place, so I suppose we could
Garden.
could sail along.
Dusty
Nice.
thoroughly approve of the fact that you just brought flame into the camera. But yeah,
The fiery one.
so it's a bit of a trek to get to the Ruby Gardens from where you are. It's not terribly long, but it is a lot of winding roads to get there.
So we
Mhm.
entered at the top or at the west
got
side?
I will attempt to show you. You would have entered at the it would be at the west. There's one near
Yeah.
the top and one near the middle. You entered near the one in the middle.
Okay.
Since I know you guys can see the map, which I gave you guys just so that you had reference for when I was talking about the distance between locations.
Yeah.
Roughly where the maw is where that floating chunk of the city is.
Okay.
The part labeled Skyport would be where the armada was of all the ships.
Oh, I thought this is Skyfort.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very small writing on that picture, so I know.
It works.
Yes. And at some point, people will get to see these maps. I just haven't. We just haven't actually popped up onto the Roll20 where I have them set up. So it is probably a good 20-30 minutes worth of walking to get there, just because of how much winding back and forth there is.
There.
Now, as you are walking, it becomes relatively apparent after a short while there are still people here. Not a lot, as most of the houses are fairly dilapidated, they're in disrepair, but there are still some buildings when you pass them that you can tell are being maintained. So someone is still living here. But you have yet to see any people out on the street. It's just your company.
Aye.
Okay.
As you approach the Ruby Gardens, the gardens are like nothing most of you have ever seen. Oddly enough, Atrix, you have seen something similar. But only in one of the two visions you saw from your card.
Okay.
The vision
we heard
of the
some stuff.
forest, where you were preparing to join the Wild Hunt.
Okay.
The forest, that version of Atrix knew to be the Feywilds. Yes, you have people behind you now. In
Yes, I do.
real life, not in D&D. Maybe in D&D too, you don't know yet.
I'm behind him.
But the biggest difference between this and the forest that you had seen previously is the trees in here have a brilliant red hue to them. Not like the trees of autumn, but an almost ethereal quality to these trees, where they are definitely species that you as a ranger recognize.
Mm-hmm.
But they're different, with this strange bark being too red and the leaves having a reddish hue to them that just, you know from your own experience, shouldn't be there. And with as early in spring as you currently are, you would also know that the fact that all these trees already have all their leaves for the year is another oddity.
Odd. Yeah.
It's too early. They should still be budding,
Fair.
because
Yeah.
these trees are all deciduous trees. They lose their leaves every year. However, as you get closer, you also notice this forest, well, it has the appearance of being a very wild place. It has a strange, almost park-like quality to it, where, well, it isn't fully wild, it is if someone took that wild, true wild forest and made it just safe enough that having it this close to the city wouldn't cause harm. It hasn't been tamed per se, but part of its wildness seems muted.
Okay.
And again, that's a lot of your memory going back and forth to that
Right.
vision of what the forest you were in there was. It wasn't red, it was green that you were used to, but it had a very wild feel to it, as if nature here was able to run wild, literally. There was no one had ever attempted to tame it. Whereas this, well, it was not tamed, something has made it to the extent contained. There is a slight shimmer around this place as well. Not like to the level that the Vail was, but you can see there is that odd shimmer in the air, like heat waves, right at the edge where the forest stops and the city begins.
Okay.
And the two that were with you, Malak and Augustus, kind of walk up to an area. You can see there, it looks like an old game trail that enters this place. And they just kind of sit down and wait for a moment. It isn't too long before it would probably be Rooklyn that spots it first, but eventually you all would. There is a small ferry coming down the game trail. And Delaney, if you would like to describe your character.
Okay. I'm a druid. You can see I have a drink in my hand, which doesn't really make sense because it's of your terrestrial liquor. And probably does nothing to me. But, I try to fit in, okay? I don't know, what can I say? I'm kind of destructive, chaotic in a sense, but hauntingly beautiful. I don't know. I've been quiet this entire time, so I haven't really been. My name's Linferno, which I think is a cooler name than Sandy.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
you needed a placeholder
Fair.
name until you decided what yours was.
That'll do.
Yep. And I'm a part of the Circle of the Wildfire. So I believe in a lot of tearing down to create new. There's a lot of corruption in this city. I've seen a lot of shit. And sometimes you just need to burn stuff down to create innocence again. You know what I mean?
Oddly enough, I assume that half of that was an external monologue that Linferno was saying as she's just fluttering along down the game trail. A lot of the corruption, we should all burn it all down. Just in character said
Fair
out
enough.
loud
I'm okay with that.
as she's talking to herself. I don't know if that's how you were doing it, but that is
exactly
immediately how my brain went.
Exactly.
and as she's approaching, having this monologue with herself, you see Moloch and Augustus just look at each other for a minute and go, "No, really? He means her? The fiery one?" That was a lot of ranting about fire, wasn't it? And you just... did you say your name out loud during all of this, too? Or...
Yep.
Or... Yep. The, looks up and goes... Hello? L'Inferno?
Yes.
You see him just... Again, Augustus is enjoying every moment of this. You get the distinct feeling that it is not often he sees Moloch out of sorts like this, and he is relishing every moment of him being uncomfortable. But Moloch, so the taller one, looks over at you and goes, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the old man of Hope Falls, but he has sent us to collect seemingly you and these others and bring you all to Hope Fall, or to Raven's Hollow.
No.
And you see him just kind of look over at Augustus and goes, "Did the old man say no was an option? Is that a thing?" And you just watch Augustus go, "I don't know. He said, meet the fiery one here. Bring them to Raven's Hollow. So... I mean, you could try and catch her. Or... Like I said, Augustus is not really helping. Because he is enjoying watching Moloch.
Well,
Oh. Is there anything the rest of you want to do, or are you going to continue to watch this play out?
if the fairy is meant to be in our merry band of misfits, well, from what I can
Yeah.
hear, you don't like corruption.
Not at all.
We've been trying to like fix some corruption. Could use your help. You want to help us?
What are you doing?
Right now, we're just following these two weirdos. And I point to Augustus and Moloch.
Augustus looks super offended. Malik does not look like he gave one shit that you just called him weird.
Okay.
At this point,
That being said, Augustus's disgust at being called weird seems very exaggerated. Like, it's probably not the first time he's been called that either.
sounds about right.
Well, right now we're going to meet some sketchy old dude that apparently can see the future. So if
That'll
you're
be
down
great.
with that, it could be fun.
You know what, Rockland? I like you. But you guys can't have the rest of the fairies. They gotta stay here. This is our home.
All
Well,
right.
we don't need the rest of them. We were just told to get the fiery one. So
Alright, that's definitely me. I'm the
apparently
total
is you.
Again,
For some reason.
as you're having this discussion, you just see Malik and Augustus look at each other and go, Were we supposed to get other fairies? Did the old man say anything about other fairies? Augustus just kind of looks back at Malik and goes, to be honest, I didn't know there were any fairies in there. I just knew that it was, a forest in the middle of the city for some reason.
It makes
It was-
sense if you don't think about it.
Yeah,
It's
just don't
been
think about
here-
it.
He just kind of goes, it's been here longer than I have.
You guys said
Lots
the
of
fiery
weird stuff
one,
happens.
not the fiery group.
In this city.
So we just need the one.
The
We just need
multitude of fiery
we-
ones.
Yeah, we just need the singular fiery one.
All right.
That's my detectiveness kicking in.
At which point,
There you go.
Malik just shrugs and goes, good enough for me. I was told get the fiery one. I like what Brooklyn here said. That means one. It means I don't have to try and find more. I want to go home.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Augustus is just like, what? You don't want to talk to more new people? No? Oh, what a shame. As Malik just turns around and begins walking back into the city.
Nice.
And it's relatively slow going. Because, well, your characters don't necessarily know where it is. And L'Inferno has been here long enough. I will let you decide, Delaney, whether or not she knows where Raven's Hollow is from the Ruby Gardens.
Sure, why not? She's lived in the Diamond City her whole life, or Diamond.
The Black City, yes.
Sorry, I just got done playing Fallout last week. Anyway.
It's all right. I said Hope Falls
Anyways,
earlier
yeah,
instead of.
she's lived in the
Raven's
Black City her whole life, and in Boston too. She can live in Boston as well. The Commonwealth. Why not?
Anyway, then L'Inferno would know that they are not taking the most direct path back, but would also know that the path they are taking is directly avoiding the territory of the Revivalists, which you 100% would know who they are. I don't think you were watching the stream that I talked about the Revivalists in, and it was quite a while ago for the rest of them, so the brief rundown for everybody is the Revivalists were the group that stole these lots' memories. They were the ones that Sabria was part of. And Carmen had explained they were attempting to resurrect the Archlich and bring him back to power. So you would know that they are directly working to avoid areas where they know they will run into them. The rest of you don't know any different because you don't have any real memories of the city. But it's probably a good hour and a half before you make it to the edge of a massive pit in the ground. You are almost directly beneath the floating chunk of the city. And as they continue leading you, you find they lead you to a bridge that actually goes over a section of this giant chasm. And you can see there is a small section of the city that is on the ground on the opposite side. And as they're going across, Malik is the one who kind of brings it up. He goes, "We're almost there." Before Augustus goes, "Really? You're not going to tell them anything?" And he just starts he goes into almost a tour guide type thing, but far more sarcastic than any tour guide would ever be. Pointing out such lovely details as the giant hole that you are currently walking over. Be like, yeah, it's called the Maw. It kind of just opened up, which is the reason there's now a floating chunk of the city. Because it was either make the city float, or it plummets into the hole. Wizards decided to make it float. And then kicked everybody who wasn't a wizard out of the floaty part, because wizards are also kind of assholes.
And those all assholes. Fan
He-
conform.
He kind of continues his narration in that style, pointing at other random bits here and there, most of which are of zero importance. It's like, and that gargoyle lost its head. Funny story, actually. And just randomly spouts off goofy tidbits about random bits of the architecture, and that as you're walking across a relatively long bridge. That the ground of this bridge is all stonework, as well as the sides. But there doesn't seem to be any connection to any pillars underneath it. You can see the starts of certain pillars before you get onto it, but they all seem to go down a ways and then just kind of stop. They're not broken off either. They're artistically designed to look like they were broken, but it is a artistic choice. It was not, these had full columns that broke. Because the breaks are all just a little bit too clean. They're all a little bit too perfectly broken in an almost aesthetic way.
A little shit chic. Got it.
Basically. And you see there are parts of the bridge that are designed to look this way too. But as you get across, this is the first time you actually begin to hear other people. There is active talking. There are conversations happening. Nothing that you can particularly make out as you're still a ways away, but it sounds more like what, at least Lucas, you would be familiar with the sound of an actual city should be. There are people here doing usual
People things.
yeah. And as you enter this part, there are seemingly normal people just milling about. There is also a proportionately high number of people dressed like Carmen and Moloch in the all black, unnaturally black cloaks with the raven queen's
Yes.
clasp. And you see a few of them near the end of the bridge actually actively have sickles drawn like what you have seen Carmen use. They actively have them leaning against the ground in an almost guard-like post, though not wearing any armor of any kind that you can see. The only armored individual you've seen so far has been Augustus. And the rest of this small section of the city seems to be a functional, if very small, chunk of the Black City. The two of them continue to lead you through this small section towards an area almost directly opposite where you guys came across the bridge. You enter a small town square. It's very small compared to the one in Hope Falls. There's a small well in the middle of it, and you can see from here that there is another bridge heading off to the north with a makeshift barricade in front of it, as well as several more of the Reapers standing guard, including a couple that appear to be looking over the top. They take you to a relatively small hut on the outskirts of this edge of the city. And it's Malik that walks up to it and just raises a fist and just pounds on the door. Completely ignoring the fact that there is a small knocker on this door. And just straight up almost punching the door. And in no way, shape, or form being polite about the fact that he goes, "Hey, old man, they're here." And a few... It seems longer than it actually takes. Just because there's... At least from Malik, there is this... I want you to get to the door so that I can go away feeling. But it's really only a few seconds before the door is opened by a, from the looks of him, relatively old, dragonborn individual. You can see the scales are a little bit more muted than what they probably should be. They're not quite as brilliant blue as they once would have been. He is a little bit disheveled, not wearing the nicest attire. It also, from looking at it, Rooklyn would probably know this, but the rest of you probably wouldn't, is not anything that is typical of what the Dragonborn or the Scaled Empire would wear. This is much less extravagant than what most of them would have worn.
Extravagant? More extravagant?
Much less extravagant than what they would have worn.
Less.
If I said more, I apologize.
I had some weird audio, I couldn't tell.
They tend to wear more extravagant attire.
Okay. So he is
especially as someone who would have been considered an elder. His attire is much more the attire of a traveler.
Okay.
And someone who has traveled a lot. As it is... It's not in bad shape, but it has definitely seen better days. The other thing to notice is his eyes are completely white. As he opens the door and makes eye contact with none of you.
So he's blind.
Yeah.
Okay.
From what we can tell.
I mean, assumptions are pretty big that since if someone opens a door, usually they make eye contact with something. I'm guessing he has kind of like a mile-long stare going on.
Yeah, he is staring at about where Malik is, or
I mean, he could just be choosing not to make eye contact.
but he's only staring the approximate. He's not like looking up to where his face should be or anything like that. He's just kind of staring at where the sound came from.
Okay.
And he goes, "Oh, Malik, did you bring the individuals I asked you for?" And he just kind of, you see him sweep across to the area around in front of his house, failing to catch where any of you are. And Malik just goes, "Yes, old man, they're here. I have done my part. I have things to do. Goodbye." And he proceeds to simply turn and walk away.
Bye, friend.
Hello, I am the wild one.
At which point, Augustus kind of walks to about where each one of you are and does exactly like you just did, Dusty. Goes, stands behind you and goes, "Yes, this one's the wild one, apparently.
Hello.
This is Atrix." Walks over to where Rooklyn is and goes, "This one is Rooklyn." Walks over to Lucas. "This is Lucas."
Howdy.
And walks over to Linferno. I have to look because it's going to take me a while to get used to that name. I still half the time get Brooklyn wrong, so...
You've done good tonight, and I'm proud of you for that one.
For whatever reason,
I haven't got any
really want it to be Rookhill, and I don't know why.
root kill tonight, so we'll take it.
So,
Yeah.
but he walks to each one of you, introduces you. Since you said you were the wild man, he doesn't do it to the others until he gets to Linferno and goes, "And based on the fact that we found her where you said the fiery one should be, and has already ranted a good bit about fire, I'd say this is probably your fiery one. Also a little bit scary, but mostly due to the I want to burn things. Because she's really tiny."
Is any of it wrong for real life, though?
But,
I'm really tiny, I want to burn things.
it's fair. But the old man just, you can see him get this big smile on his face. Goes, "Good, good, good. Would you all like to come in? I have tea."
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
brother.
I love tea.
Like,
Bro.
he is... So
I
far,
have water. I'm good.
Augustus was friendly, but he was very sarcastic. Bye, Dusty.
Oh, Dusty, come on.
He gone.
Hi, Dusty.
I would also like to ask for the Dragon Ball's name since we're here now.
That was weird.
You're fine.
Yes.
So that I may appropriately address him.
He informs you, when you ask that his name is Doru.
Come again?
Doru?
Doru.
Okay.
Doru?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if it wasn't, that's how it's gonna be.
It actually is how it was.
Ah, see, I'm
and
smart
again,
sometimes.
Rooklyn, this sticks out in your head as being an unusual name for most of the Dragonborn that you have encountered. As most of the Dragonborn you have encountered have been from the Scaled Empire. And at no point did that sound like an Imperial name. But he brings you into based on the look of him, surprisingly tidy little room. It is very much like a one-room building. There is not much here beyond the single room that you can see. Near one edge, you can see he has a bed mat that has been folded up against the wall to create some extra space. He has cushions on the floor for people to sit on, as well as a very low table. And he does have a small kettle that is already approaching being ready to serve tea out of.
Ooh.
And he gestures almost perfectly at where the cushions are. Goes, sit, 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 sit. Tea will be with you in just a moment. I'm so pleased that you could all make it.
I immediately take a seat.
The cushions
Call my
are
wings so they look all
I'll
nice
go
and
ahead. I'll go ahead and pop a squat.
dressed, so to speak, and
I
nice
just
and-
take a seat on one of the bookshelves.
okay. When you sit on the bookshelves, you notice that there is a good bit of dust on these shelves, as being someone who has apparently been without his eyesight for a while now, reading is not a popular pastime of his anymore.
I'm gonna sit on the coffee table.
So, you sat in basically a dust bunny before going, ew, and going and sitting on the table.
Damn.
That happens.
Yep.
Shit like that happens. I'm using my phone.
The group of you take your seats. They're actually relatively comfortable, though you notice that there are, in addition to him, the seat that should have been for L'Inferno, who ignored it, there are 3 others. Then, when he takes his seat, he kind of looks around the room. Again, he gets close to where you are, but he never fully makes eye contact with you. Before he goes, it is a pleasure to be sitting here amongst you lot. I wish I would have gotten the chance to talk with you two, gesturing vaguely where he thought Lucas and Atrix were. And he's pretty close. The last time you were here, but unfortunately, your friend, Mr. Shadowbranch, was less than keen on having you speak to me for some reason. I'm not actually sure why, as I've spoken with him numerous times since you all have left, and he seems to be quite the amenable fellow most of the times.
Yeah, I confess I don't really know what was going on with him, but I'm here now.
I have suspicions, but I have not bothered to gaze in that direction, as more pressing matters were capturing my attention. Did you receive the cards I sent you?
Yes, it tasted very good.
Nope, didn't get one.
You see him kind of cock his head to the side and go, "Why did you eat it?"
No need to press on about other matters, but it tasted very
Wild.
good. Thank you.
He just kind of sighs to himself and goes, Wildman was a good
That's
good
disgusting.
feeling for you. As
I haven't looked at mine yet, but
don't know how else to describe that. He looks over and goes, Rooklyn, I apologize. I did not know what time you would be joining this group. I just knew that you would get here at the same time as them. So I did not know should I send you a card or not. Though I have the sneaking suspicion that I won't need to, if that makes sense to you. I get the distinct feeling that whatever being you are in contact with has their own methods of delivering such information.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
I do talk to God from now and then, so yeah. Yeah, they're pretty good at what they do.
and he goes, while I have a great many talents, there are times where it is best that I not touch things. And I have the
Understandable.
sneaking suspicion, having now met you, that handing you a card is probably dangerous for both of us. As
And I have another one.
Kind of looks at you and goes, you are a strange individual. But I sense that there will be many choices in your future, and there may come a time where, yes, you may get another card.
All right.
That being said, it is not this moment.
Oh.
I apologize. But,
I'm just gonna make a deck of cards.
he goes, oh, no, I have a deck of cards. That's where those came from. They've...
Yes, well, I'm gonna make my own. At least my own hand.
Looks at you and goes, that concept has been done before, and knowing too much of one's future, or in your cases, possible futures,
I'm not gonna look at them.
is dangerous, as we often attempt to prevent futures we find distasteful and commit the necessary acts to bring them to be.
You should play Uno with them.
You want to play Uno with
A blind man? Yeah. That's
Doru the blind seer?
Bastard.
Yes.
A little messed up, bud.
A little?
messed up.
no. I'm gonna collect it. You know, if I get any more, I'm just gonna frame them and put them in my house if I ever have a house. God, would it be nice to have a house?
You don't have a house?
He lives in the bell tower,
I live in a
remember?
bell tower, bud.
What?
Yeah, he was staying in the bell tower back in Hope Falls.
Oh.
I'm going to take a quick pause here and see how much longer do you guys want to go, because I know at least two of you have to be up fairly early in the morning.
I'm good with calling it whenever.
Yeah, same.
I would like to
Me
ask Drew.
Doru.
Doru.
Doru,
Like Dora,
Um,
but with a U.
what information he can give me about good old Shadow Branch, though, since
Yeah.
he seems like a pretty smart guy, such as like location, what he's been up to, that type of stuff, just general.
He informs you that Shadow Branch has been staying here in, not in his apartment, but in the area of Raven's Hollow, and that he has been, much to the chagrin of the Reapers who have been functioning as Raven Hollow's guards much to their irritation, been sneaking out of Raven's Hollow on a fairly regular basis to go search for artifacts throughout the city.
So if you're feeling stabby, let me know.
But apart from that, he has been returning fairly regularly, sometimes with assistance of a Reaper who has found him somewhere he probably shouldn't be. And as Moloch said, kind of goes, the gentleman has an insatiable curiosity and very, very little in terms of self-preservation instincts. And you see his eyes kind of briefly, the milky white of them shifts for a second, and you hear him go, yet he lives an oddly long life for someone who is so close to death at all times.
Some people just be like that.
It's
Would you
Naturally
happen to
strange.
know whereabouts he's at now? Or
if you ask as you ask that, he goes, exactly no, but give me a moment. And you see him kind of sit back for a moment, and out of a pouch on his belt, he pulls a small,
Yeah.
about yay big, little crystal.
In D&D.
You do it on that computer.
I'm doing it on the phone.
Uh,
I'm doing it on the phone. I'm just scrolling and stuff. Can I?
He gazes at. Oddly enough, you see the that cloudy milkiness of his eyes shifts again. It's kind of like you ever played with one of those spheres that they have at some of the museums that are supposed to look like Jupiter, where you spin it and you can see all the clouds and stuff swirl. His eyes do that.
Huh.
The
Unique.
cataracts in his eyes, you can see it swirl like that as he gazes into this orb.
I would just like to say now, not like to him, just to the group. If he ever dies, I want one of his eyes.
Jesus H. I'll help you.
Okay.
Throwing
But
all convictions out the window at this
he-
point.
He briefly stares into this orb and he goes, it appears Shadow Branch is on his way back at the moment.
and whereabouts does he stay when he's in Raven's Hollow Heel?
He goes, I believe he has been staying with the Reapers at the barracks.
Eric's party.
Okay. I guess we'll have to make our way there then.
But yeah,
Have we been served our tea?
at this point, yes, the tea is prepared and he is pouring it with a odd ability of not missing a single cup or spilling a single drop of tea. He gets every single cup.
Nice.
What kind of tea?
Wet.
Okay.
Is it relatively pleasant to the palate?
It's better than the tea you make, Atrix. We'll just put it that way. It's better than
That's
that.
probably true. That's probably true.
He uses actual tea leaf.
It is it's actually a very nice blended tea. You can taste.
So is mine.
No, yours is disgusting. We've been over this.
Just because it's
Because-
blended doesn't mean it's nice.
But
This one is blended, comma, nice tea.
but
This is different.
it is a very rich black tea that seems to have been steeped with some herbs and a little bit of cinnamon.
Tasty.
So
Well,
you're not
sir, you're-
entirely sure what flavors are all in it, but you get a very distinct black tea and a very subtle hint of cinnamon, as well as a couple of other herbal flavors.
Sir, your tea is phenomenal.
Why, thank you. It is an old family recipe. I blend it myself. Though some of the ingredients are rather difficult to find here in the city. But
Still tastes good.
as you sit and sip your tea, he takes a seat here at the small little table with you. And just kind of looks around and goes, I had hoped that my visions were incorrect and that the other two who came with you originally would be able to be here, but I sense their path has diverged. And I am uncertain where it will lead them at this moment. Though, to be fair, I am uncertain where any of your futures will eventually lead you. Lucas, you said you hadn't looked at your card yet, but Atrix, you have. It should have showed you two potential futures. I felt showing you...
That it did.
I felt showing you more would be too much. Though you individuals here are anomalies, to say the least. You are a focal point to out in which many other fates may turn. It is why it was so hard for me to predict any one future for you. When I sent you the cards, it was just a hope that it would be enough to bring you back here.
Psychic damage. All the psychic damage.
But you lot have a great deal of potential here, as well as
Potential.
many other places. And, well, I can help you to uncover parts of it. I, unfortunately, cannot tell you everything, simply because the very nature of you four makes it impossible for me to say what your futures individually will hold. Though the instant each of you had set foot in the city, or in Rooklin's case, the instant he took the job searching for Shadow Branch, the only thing I knew was that your fates were connected to this city in some way. Whether for good or ill is something I cannot determine. And that is why I wanted to bring you back here, so that you could uncover for yourselves what this potential is. And he just kind of looks down for a minute and goes, I'm a much better seer than I am at explaining what I see. It's very obnoxious at times to attempt to translate what I know to be true into words in a way that others will understand. just know that I meant you no ill by bringing you back to this place. Or, in the case of Brooklyn, bringing you to see me in general, and L'Inferno taking you away from the Ruby Gardens. I just knew that all of you had a part to play in what was to come. As well as another who... They shall arrive in time. I'm not sure when that will be. Yet, something is clouding their fate from me at the moment. But, for the time being, they will be the last of what will be the 5 of you who are tied to this place somehow. And unfortunately, that's all I can say. I don't even know what the ties are. For all I know, Rooklin's only tie was that Shadow Branch was here. And
Hey, man, that's
yours-
good enough for me. Contract's a contract.
He just kind of chuckles at that. Goes, but I sense there may be more. For all of you. And that's where we'll call it for the night.
Yee.
Solid.
I know I have to work the next 2 Sundays, so I'm not sure when our next stream will be, but we will do our best to keep you posted and hopefully have more information farther out than we did for this one. And thank you, and have a lovely evening.
Why?